I honestly don't even remember exactly how it all started. I was just a kid back then, maybe around 10 years old. Some memories feel blurry now, like they were buried under layers of time, but certain details still stick with me in a way that makes my stomach tighten. What I do remember is that our family had been in a long, ugly conflict with my stepfather's relatives from the countryside, especially his grandmother. That side of the family always felt distant, cold. They lived in a small rural village where people whispered about old grudges, superstition, and family drama that went back decades. My stepfather's grandmother was the center of that tension. She was ancient, the kind of old that makes you feel like she's seen too much of the world. Her hair was thin and white, almost the color of milk, always pulled back tightly as if she didn't trust it to stay in place. Her skin looked papery and fragile, and her eyes never felt warm. Even when she smiled, it didn't reach them. Adults said she was stubborn. Kids said she was scary. And honestly, she felt like someone who carried old secrets. One day, out of nowhere, she showed up at our house. I remember hearing the door open, the low murmur of adult voices, the tense politeness in the air. Later, someone explained that she had come because she felt her time was running out, that she wanted to let go of grudges before passing on. Supposedly, she wanted to make peace. She brought me a gift. It was a towel. A black towel, with a massive, brightly colored parrot stitched into the fabric. The bird looked almost too vivid against the dark background, like it didn't belong there. The moment I saw it, I felt an instant wave of dislike, the kind that doesn't come with a logical reason. It just felt wrong. But I had been raised to be polite. So I forced a smile. I thanked the old woman. I tried not to show how uncomfortable I felt. Then I carried the towel to my room, tossed it onto a messy pile of toys beside my bed, and forgot about it. Or at least, I thought I did. That same night, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, it felt like something was moving in the dark. The shadows in my room didn't seem still anymore, they looked thicker, heavier, like they were watching. I kept hearing faint sounds, a soft rustle, a whisper, the subtle creak of the floor, even though no one else was awake. Whenever I did manage to fall asleep, I'd jolt awake almost instantly, heart racing, throat dry, the feeling of being stared at clinging to my skin. At some point, I rolled over to the other side of the bed. And I froze. Lying right next to me, almost nose to nose, was the old woman. Not a dream. Not a shadow. Her eyes were wide open, unblinking, stretched so far it looked painful. They reflected the faint light from the window, glassy and lifeless. Her mouth, toothless and sunken, was pulled into a slow, unnatural grin, like she was enjoying my fear. The smell hit me too. Something faintly stale. Dust. Old fabric. Cold air. For a few seconds, my brain simply refused to process what I was seeing. It felt impossible, like reality itself had cracked. I squeezed my eyes shut hard, then opened them again, telling myself it had to be a pile of clothes. A heap of toys. Some stupid trick of the dark. But she didn't disappear. Instead, her expression shifted. The smile twitched, widened, twisted into something uglier. Her lips trembled like she was about to speak, or laugh, or breathe my name. Her face kept changing in subtle, wrong ways, like a mask that didn't fit properly. I felt paralyzed. My body wouldn't respond. I couldn't scream. I couldn't move. I could barely breathe. My mind started scrambling for logic. This isn't real. This can't be real. You're imagining it. You're half asleep. Terrified, I squeezed my eyes shut again, harder this time, pressing my face into the pillow. I forced myself not to look. I forced myself not to think. I kept whispering in my head, if I fall asleep, it'll go away. If I fall asleep, it'll go away. Eventually, shaking, sweating, on the edge of panic, I somehow managed to drift into a restless, shallow sleep. But even as I faded out, I couldn't shake the feeling that she was still there. Watching. Smiling. Waiting. I want to be honest, I didn't wake my parents that night. Not because I didn't need help, but because I was scared of getting in trouble. My mom was kind, really. She loved me. But she could be strict, and I was terrified she'd think I was just imagining things, or worse, punish me for staying up late or making things up. So I stayed quiet. I kept everything to myself. By morning, I had a fever. At first, I was secretly happy about it. It meant no school, no tests, no homework. I remember feeling a tiny spark of relief, but it didn't last long. My condition got worse. Fast. The fever wouldn't go down. I felt weak, dizzy, constantly exhausted, like someone had drained the life out of me. I could barely get out of bed. Food tasted wrong. My body felt heavy and hollow at the same time. Doctors came. Tests were done. They whispered in the hallway. But no one could explain what was happening. I don't remember every symptom clearly, some of it feels blurred now, like my mind blocked it out, but my parents later told me I was fading. Losing weight. Losing color. Losing energy. Day by day, I looked less like a living child and more like a pale, fragile shadow of one. It scared them. That's when my maternal grandmother stepped in. She was old-fashioned, the kind of woman who trusted intuition more than medicine. When modern doctors couldn't help, she turned to someone from her past, an old acquaintance she knew from years ago. I never knew the right word for what that woman was. Not exactly a doctor. Not exactly a priest. More like a folk healer, a wise woman, someone who dealt with things most people preferred not to believe in. She was a gentle, soft-spoken elderly woman. Kind eyes. A tired smile. People said she'd never had much happiness in her own life, no real family, no wealth, no easy fate, but she spent what little she had helping others. Even strangers. Even people who couldn't pay. And she never asked for money. When my grandmother told her about me, the woman didn't hesitate. She didn't look confused. She didn't ask for long explanations. Instead, she said something that sent a chill through everyone. Something was brought into that house. Find it. And when you do, bring the girl to me. No doubt. No hesitation. As if she already knew exactly what was happening. Naturally, everyone immediately thought about the towel. There really wasn't anything else it could be. That strange black towel with the bright parrot, the one my stepfather's grandmother had brought, suddenly stopped looking like a harmless gift and started feeling like a mistake. Like a doorway. Like something that never should have crossed the threshold of our home. When the folk healer finally came to see me, the atmosphere in the house changed instantly. She didn't rush. She didn't smile. She didn't pretend this was ordinary. She moved slowly, carefully, as if stepping into a space that didn't fully belong to the living. I remember her circling around my bed again and again, murmuring under her breath in a language I didn't understand, half prayers, half whispers, half warnings. She sprinkled water over me, cold droplets that felt heavier than normal water, like each one carried weight. Every time a drop touched my skin, I flinched, even though it didn't hurt. The air in the room felt thicker, warmer, then suddenly colder. My eyelids kept drooping. An unnatural, crushing sleepiness pulled at me, like something was trying to drag me under. My heart, on the other hand, was racing wildly, pounding so hard it almost hurt, like it was trying to escape my chest. It felt like two opposite forces were fighting inside me, one trying to knock me unconscious, the other screaming at me to stay awake. At times, the room seemed to stretch. The walls looked farther away than they should have been. Sounds felt distant, voices muffled, like they were underwater. The healer leaned closer at one point, studying my face with unsettling intensity. Her eyes narrowed, and I swear she frowned, not in confusion, but in recognition. She whispered more urgently then. Faster. Sharper. Finally, after what felt like hours, she stopped. The room went quiet. Everyone held their breath. She straightened up slowly and said, almost under her breath, "You're lucky she didn't wipe her face with it." The sentence landed like a curse. No one asked her what she meant, no one wanted to. For a while, I actually started getting better. My fever eased. My strength slowly returned. I could eat again. I could walk again. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. My parents started hoping it had all just been some strange illness, some coincidence, some childhood scare blown out of proportion. But the truth was, whatever had started this hadn't left. It had only gone quiet. Soon, the nights became unbearable again. I started seeing things. Not dreams, visions. Shadows that lingered too long. Movements in the corners of my room. Figures that vanished when I turned my head. Sometimes I woke up with the distinct feeling that someone had been standing over me, watching me sleep, studying my breathing like it mattered. Other times, I'd see shapes near the ceiling, pale, shifting forms that twisted slowly, like smoke trying to become a body. And then there were the insects. Or what looked like insects. One night, I opened my eyes and saw a swarm of bright red butterflies hovering above me. Not soft red. Not pretty red. A deep, blood-colored crimson. They fluttered around my face, my chest, my arms, landing on my hair, my shoulders, my blanket. Their wings made a faint rustling sound, like paper being torn very slowly. I tried to scream. Nothing came out. The butterflies didn't vanish when I closed my eyes. They stayed. Even with my eyelids shut tight, I could still see them burned into the darkness like an afterimage. Their wings kept moving, brushing my skin, crawling over my collarbone. I could feel them. Cold. Light. Persistent. When I finally opened my eyes again, they were still there, pulsing, hovering, multiplying, until the entire space around me looked alive with red, trembling shapes. Then, slowly, they faded. Not all at once. One by one. Like embers dying. After that, I understood something on a level no child ever should. Whatever had touched me through that towel was not done. It had only started. That's when the healer told my grandmother to cut open my pillow. At first, no one wanted to do it. It felt wrong, like opening something that wasn't meant to be touched. But my condition was getting worse again, and fear outweighed hesitation. They ripped the pillow open right there in my room. White feathers spilled out onto the bed, soft and harmless at first glance. But then we saw them. 4 black feathers. Not just resting inside, they were woven into the stuffing, twisted and tangled deep within the pillow, like someone had deliberately braided them into the fluff. They looked unnaturally dark, darker than they should have been, almost absorbing the light around them. Their shafts were stiff, sharp-looking, and faintly glossy, like wet ink. The room went silent. Even the adults looked shaken. My grandmother grabbed the feathers immediately, like she was afraid they might move on their own, and rushed out to the balcony to burn them. Everyone followed at a distance, keeping their space, as if those feathers could reach out and touch them. She tried to set them on fire. Nothing happened. She struck one match, then another, and another. The flames licked the feathers, but they wouldn't catch. They only darkened at the edges, curling slightly, as if resisting. It took 2 full matchboxes before they finally began to burn. And when they did, it wasn't normal. They hissed. They crackled. They sparked like live wires. The fire didn't just consume them, it fought them. The feathers twitched in the flame, curling inward, popping, releasing a faint, bitter smell that made everyone recoil. The sound they made was sharp and wet, like something alive being burned. They kept sizzling and snapping until nothing remained but fine gray ash. Only then did the tension in the air seem to ease, just a little. After that, the healer brought me a new pillow. She said she had made it herself. Not bought. Not stitched in a factory. Made by hand. She told me it was mine and mine alone, that no one else should ever sleep on it. She placed it under my head with a seriousness that felt almost ceremonial, like she was sealing a boundary. The moment I lay down on it, something felt different. For the first time in weeks, my sleep felt deep. Heavy. Peaceful. It was like falling into a quiet ocean where nothing could reach me. To this day, I still sleep on that pillow. And here's the strange part. I sleep perfectly on it. But when anyone else tries to use it, even for a nap, they wake up with splitting headaches. Some say they feel dizzy. Others say they have nightmares. One person told me they felt like something was pressing on their temples the entire night. So I keep it for myself. Always have. Not long after the feathers were destroyed, everything started to improve. My strength came back. My appetite returned. Color slowly returned to my face. I went back to school. I started laughing again. I started feeling like a normal kid again. From the outside, it looked like the nightmare had ended. But deep down, I knew something important. It hadn't just been an illness. It hadn't just been coincidence. And it definitely hadn't been imagination. Something had been done to me, and whatever it was, it had left a mark even if no one else could see it. About a year later, we got news about the old woman. The same one who had given me that towel. She died. And not peacefully in bed, no. They said she collapsed right on the threshold of her own house. They found her lying in the entryway, half inside, half outside, like she hadn't quite decided whether to leave or stay. Some people whispered that she was trying to step out. Others said she was trying to come back in. Either way, she never made it past the doorway. There was something deeply unsettling about that. Almost poetic. Almost like a punishment. Almost like a debt being collected. No one in our family went to her funeral except a few of the closest blood relatives. The rest kept their distance. Some out of resentment. Some out of fear. And some, I think, because they didn't want to be reminded of old grudges and things better left buried. As a child, I didn't fully understand it back then. But I felt it. Her death didn't bring relief. It brought a strange, heavy silence. Like the closing of a chapter that never should have been written. And then, not long after that, my rescuer passed away too. The folk healer. The woman who had saved me. She was old, yes, but she had always been lively, sharp, full of energy. The kind of elderly person who still walked quickly, who laughed easily, who seemed like she'd outlive everyone out of pure stubbornness. Her death felt different. It wasn't frightening. It was heartbreaking. People said it was just age, just time, just nature. But to me, it felt like the last light going out. I remember thinking, even as a kid, that it was unfair. That someone who had spent her life helping others, healing strangers, and asking for nothing in return deserved more time. She had never been truly happy. She had never had much for herself. But she gave so much to everyone else. And she had saved me. Honestly, I don't know if I would have lived to grow up without her. I don't know if I would have survived that sickness. Or whatever it really was. Sometimes I wonder if she paid for it with her own strength. With her own years. With something invisible that I'll never fully understand. And sometimes I think about this. The woman who harmed me died on a doorstep. The woman who saved me died quietly, like a candle burning out. And I'm still here. Living a life that might not have been mine if not for her. That realization stays with you. Forever.